My guest today is the founder of Abe's Audio, and you guessed it, his name is Abe. Abe Udy is my guest, and we talk a whole lot about heaps of really good leadership, culture, business development, industry, disruption. There's a whole bunch of content in here that's really exciting and engaging. I loved having the chat. I hope you're gonna love listening to it and learn something as well. Take it away. Abe, thank you so much for joining me in the virtual studio. Mate, I'm so excited to have you on board. This is going to be heaps of fun.
I hope so. It's good to be here, Caleb. Thanks for asking me.
No worries. So let's set the scene here. Firstly, I think I first came into contact with Abe's. Funny story. I've already told you this, but I want to start with this. I had a client reach out to me maybe almost 10 years ago, 10 years ago, and say, hey, could you, I know you do video, but could you do an audio only, like a radio ad for us? Like, we've got one of our clients that need a radio ad. I was like, yeah, sure, audio, no worries. I'll book this fancy local voice talent, and I'll get it edited and all this sort of stuff. I was like, it'll cost you $3,000. And he was like, oh, mate, have you ever heard of Abe's Audio? And he was kind of doing me a favor because we were just starting up, but he was not willing to do a $3,000 favor. I looked over at Abe's Audio. It's like, I've never heard of these guys. Abe's Audio, what are they about? And it much more competitive on the pricing and systemized to the rooftops. And I was like, oh, right. Well, I guess I'm going to be using Abe's Audio for everything from now on. And we literally have, like, we've been using Abe's Audio for all voiceovers, bar one project, I reckon, in the last 10 years. So it's been a journey for me, and you've probably been, who is this Caleb Maxwell? Who knows? But I want to dig into your story and can you paint the picture for me to start with? What actually is Abe's Audio?
Well, firstly, thanks for that amazing Google review right there. I can see my SEO going off the charts. Thanks for that. Look, you can't beat a great story, can you? And when people have felt like actually you've solved a problem, that is just the best kind of testimonial. And that's really, I guess, that's what it's all about. For me, that links to the story. It's about solving problems. And so I started 25 years ago. I had worked in commercial radio for a couple of years, fresh out of school. I'd hassled the local stations for a job where I grew up. For a couple of years, worked in commercial radio regionally, and then thought I'd rather work for myself and earn no money than work for someone else and earn no money. So literally bought a 486 computer, audio program that fitted on one floppy disk. Makes me sound super old. This is not early internet, but emails, like very early MP3. So the way to make audio files a lot smaller was just being developed. And so it was right on the cusp of making it possible to be able to send audio files. And so I guess for me it was, what do I love doing that people will pay for? How do I monetize what I love doing, which was, creative and audio and tech and music, and kind of mashed it all together. And I thought, well, it's really commercializing that and doing ads. So I started doing really, really low budget radio ads. My first clients were like really small radio stations. I think I was charging $15 for a fully produced commercial. I'd pay a local announcer $5. I was working at a radio station at the time, so it was my side hustle. Pay the announcer $5. I'd keep $5 and use $5 as costs. So kind of the 30-30-30 split, really, almost. And no business training. I think I'd learnt that in year 8 home economics. They said hospitality venues, about 30% margin, 30% cost, 30% profit. So I think that's where I got it from. So it sounds super rudimentary, but it was $5 each, thanks very much, and started making really, really low budget. But again, it was solving a problem. These small, tiny radio stations were selling tiny advertising packages, really small audiences, if any, and they had tiny budgets. How do I solve a problem? Right, I need to work out how to commoditize this. And so I did everything to start with, all the production, all the invoicing. I hand wrote invoices. I didn't have any carbon copies, so I'd send them out in the mail. I knew nothing about bookkeeping or anything, so it was me doing everything, the client relations, the production, the marketing, the everything really. And that's how I started 25 years ago. And we've grown in that time, and I'm sure we'll get into it if you're interested, but I'm based now in Tasmania and moved here from regional South Australia where I grew up. And then we've really grown our team. So we've got 26 full-time staff now. So it's a big team based here in Tassie and remotely on, air quotes, the mainland, as Tasmania is called mainlanders, around Australia. And we've really scaled in that time and really grown. So it's been exciting.
Wowee. So from starting off doing really small and cheap radio ads, what is kind of the breadth of projects that you're working on now and the type of clientele?
It's really changed. This broadcast radio is still important and a big part of what we do, but certainly not the biggest. We do a lot of audio, again, for TV, although that's interestingly seeming to decline slightly as TV advertising globally is actually taking a hit. We do a lot of online training, e-learning, a lot of audio for internal videos or video content, digital video content that's not advertising or not traditional commercial, but it might be or internal or online or longer form content or explainer videos. We're doing a lot of that, a lot of podcast editing. Funnily enough, that's a really growing area. So podcasting for businesses, helping them to develop their whole podcasting strategy and, coming up with everything from helping to formulate questions to just basic editing if people have got, everything sorted but just need it packaged, edited, ready for production. A lot of jingle and music production work as well. And the client base has really broadened out from just regional radio where I started. We're doing a lot more with some big agencies and across Australia, some really big clients. It's really grown. So from just radio, it's really grown radio, TV, digital, podcasting, a lot of agencies, e-learning, businesses. So really, we've stuck to our knitting in terms of audio is absolutely the focus, but the types of clients within that have really expanded over time and grown.
Yeah, I love that. What are some of the, you have portfolio pieces of work or portfolio clients or projects. What would you put on currently as some of the favorite work that you've seen the team do?
One of my favorite sound design jobs of late, which is kind of creating the soundscape for animation, was for an 18-minute fully animated video made for a Saudi Arabian audience, or kind of a kids animated film, really, which sounds really bizarre, but it went to quite a big audience there, and it was all these animated science elements, and it was basically a science project, I think, to really to challenge young people and to grow them in their thinking. But just the sound design and how it really brought that animation to life was phenomenal. I love projects like that. We've been working, and I can talk a bit more about, on some really interesting AI-related projects over the last few months, which has been a really big change, not a change, but a big pivot in some ways, or another addition to what we do. And was kind of unexpected, but really blowing my mind. So, and as well as that, we're now doing a lot of voiceovers for some big brands like, your Myers and some big blue chip, brands with their advertising. And then on our end client, we're working for agencies who work for other agencies who then have some of these big clients. So it's quite humbling actually to have some of these big brands, when we look at what we're doing, to think that, wow, I still feel the same person as I did back in the day in my bedroom studio when I was doing regional radio ads, but having some big brands that are trusting us to work with them, it's very humbling.
Yeah. I love that. I want to dig into, and we're definitely going to dive into the new things on the plate at the moment, but I want to dive into industry as a whole. For those who have no idea what the audio production industry has been like and where it's come from and where it is now, can you put a little bit of meat on the bone of what the industry, what major changes the industry has gone through, and how you have leveraged those changes or overcome those challenges? Because I know you're very competitive on pricing, and you've got some really solid systems of how you're actually able to achieve that. But I'd love to hear what other similar challenges or how you've disrupted the marketplace.
Well, really, I think it's about commoditizing creativity. Now, to a creative person, that might sound really dirty and horrible, but I think that's really, in essence, what it is. We've worked out how do we take the best of human creativity and really package that and commoditize it in a way that can really keep costs down. At the end of the day, clients and clients of clients are always looking, how can we reduce costs? How do we get more for less? It's just how it is. So really what we've done is thought about how do we commoditize that creativity to be able to bring costs down? How do we make a production line that creates great work but really efficiently and does it at scale? So that's, I guess, one of the things that really drove that was probably 15 years ago, let's say 15 years ago, probably 18, 20 years ago. I was talking with a friend of mine, and my wife at the time, well, she's still my wife, but at the time she was doing a lot of our bookwork and manually invoicing, 100, plus 150, 200 jobs a week. So lots of little jobs, which you can imagine you're away from your desk for 3 days and the stack is a mile high and grinding through that. And then the errors that there would inadvertently be. And she was really, not complaining, but just commenting that this is totally painful. And I was saying to a friend, saying, how do we, and he said, you should talk to a friend of mine that I know, a guy based in Hobart. He could develop a system for you that would do that. It would interface with MYOB, which we were using at the time. I thought, really? So I talked to this guy, met him, and that was the start of us building, and we'd put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the system over the years, so massive investment, building a system we called JugTrack internally. And why do we call it that? Well, we kind of referred to Abe's audio as a juggernaut, which is an unstoppable force, just a bit of fun internal banter. So we call it JugTrack. It tracked the work of the juggernaut, JugTrack. We made this software that to start with was just built on putting all our jobs in and then pushing it all to MYOB, so it would export them all. And that was mind-blowing. But then we realized, all of a sudden daylight saving kicked in Queensland and all our time zones were out of whack because we've got clients all over Australia, and then deadlines are an hour out and we're completely missing these deadlines because we work to very tight deadlines. So then we built a time zone module in, and then we built time tracking, and we how long each job should take, how long it's actually taken, when's a voiceover being uploaded, when's it sent for that job. So it was this customized system that totally revolutionized our ability to scale and, again, commoditize creativity. So we scale dramatically. We can bolt more producers on remotely wherever they happen to be, so we can get the best talent. We've got talent now in Perth, Adelaide, Sunshine Coast, Sydney, here in Tassie, in Melbourne. I'm just trying to think. Wherever they happen to be, one of our producers is about to go to Canada for a year. Wherever they happen to be, they just log on, and it's managing all their work in their local time. Here's the jobs, here's when the voiceover's been done, any comments, any production. So it's all integratable, so all built to be able to integrate with all our account systems and messaging and a whole heap of other things. So for me, that was a big turning point. Yeah. And it was a huge investment. And now we've got a full-time developer who's been with us for 5 years, has redeveloped the system, relaunched that, and we never don't have work for him to do. It's always things we want to do. How do we do things better? How do we streamline? And for me, it's how do I leverage technology to allow people to do the best things that only people can do? How do we use tech to free up our people to do what do what only they can do? And that's really been why we've invested in that. And I think that's really given us a competitive advantage. It's not off the shelf, totally bespoke, and it's written for us to really help us to scale and commoditize that creativity.
It's pretty cool. Hearing a little bit of the back end of how you're able to achieve what you are, because from a client perspective and experience, it's really smooth, right? I just email the production at Abe's Audio email address and get going on, like, I know the process now, and it's really fast. It's really simple from our side, a client side. But on the back end, there's a behemoth of a thing that is enabling the simplicity. And I think that's a great subject to talk on. I want to rewind your brain back to that, when you're sitting in all those problems. Like, what did your team look like, and then how did you knew you wanted to commoditize and systemize, but there's quite a balance to be had between enabling creativity and being too self-focused. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're looking, how do we make our own processes more efficient, but how do we make that better for the client? How do we make our product better at the same time?
Well, for me, it's always been client focus. So I'm not thinking, how do we make it better for us, but what will make your experience better? So I'm really, really always trying to put myself in the shoes of the client. What will make their experience better? And that's been what's driven us to develop this, because to make it better for the client, it has to be better for us, more streamlined, quicker. We're quicker at doing this. Why? The why is always so the client wins. It's always starting with thinking about the why, not just about, well, we should do this. Hang on, what's the why? And to kind of dig into that a little bit, the why, the really big why, not that it doesn't really make grammatical sense, but it's about people. And I've broken that down into staff first, then clients, then others. If our staff are happy and engaged and doing a great job, then clients are happy. So it's kind of weird in that it's absolutely obsessively focused on clients and building systems to make their experience super streamlined, but also building systems and team culture to keep our staff happy, because then happy staff lead to happy clients. But it's interesting, and I was going to say earlier, really early on, I was derided by many in the industry saying, you're killing the industry. Essentially, the model was upended and that voiceover talent could work from home studios. We didn't have to hire expensive studios in Sydney at $300 an hour and bring talent in. We could work much more efficiently. And so I copped a lot of bullets back in the day, for people saying you're killing the industry. But I think it was really riding that wave of technological change and providing something that the market expected and needed. And then I would guess we've continued to try to do that. Then years later, we had a working from home model. I can talk about that. We've been working in the cloud long before the cloud was a thing. Like, we worked out how to work remotely way before the cloud was even in mid 2000s it was. But then when COVID hit, we didn't even miss a beat in terms of our working, because half of our staff work remotely. Absolutely nothing changed. In fact, it educated many of our clients and some, the detractors that, this was possible. And we've been here for 15 years doing it.
That's amazing. I love that. There's so many little rabbit holes I want to go down here. The first one is where we are right now. So how did you enable that? Like, how did you? I love the fact that you disrupted the model and the industry, because there's a resistance to doing that is always a fear-based response from people resisting or pushing back on someone disrupting, going, oh no, it's change. We hate change. But if it's not you, it'll be someone else. And it's driven by a demand of the market, right? It's you're not there we're not here as creatives to serve ourselves. We are here, if we're a business, to serve our clients. And you just worked out how to do that better.
Well, this was driven, the whole moving to a work from home or a hybrid model, or remote working model, really was driven by, I wasn't in that space at all. I was based in Devonport, regional Tasmania. I had 2 full-time staff, myself and another producer. And I thought, great, we're going to create world audio domination from Devonport. And that plan was put to rest when he said, actually, I want to move to Launceston, 100 kilometres away. I was like, oh, there goes that idea. But then I said, I think what was a pivotal moment, if you can work out how to work remotely, no problem. So this is early Microsoft Exchange and ADSL1, I think, so early broadband. And so using Microsoft Exchange server and email folders, this is before our system that I told you about, he worked out, this is how we can work remotely. So this is mid-2000s, I think it was 2007 or 2008, where basically the challenge was set and he rose to that, and that staff member is actually still with me today. So he's been really a big part of that journey. But so it wasn't really driven by the market. That was driven by a situation that was kind of thrust on me, and I thought, okay, rather than say no,
I love that.
I thought, how do we make this work?
That's so good. Wow. And that you would have had no idea how revolutionary that was going to be, or how necessary, right, that was going to be as we hit like a global pandemic. You're experiencing that like 15 years or whatever before it's necessary, and there's you really need to be able to work remotely.
And so really it's enabled then to get the best people from wherever they're based. But it also means that we don't have to have everyone in a metro market where costs are more. So yes, I've got a great senior producer in Adelaide who's been with me for 17 years. But we're able to get some of the best people that live in regional areas, and they want to live in regional areas, and that's fine. Join the Abe's team.
Love that.
And so you can really get the best people no matter where they're based.
That's so good. I want to dig into that as a perfect segue, because that was the other rabbit hole I wanted to dive into was how do you approach hiring and retaining great staff? You mentioned a couple of big numbers there about 19 years, 15 years, 7 years. Employees with a long tenure, and finding great people. Great people don't just work in a place that is average. Great people work at great places, right? Great businesses. And how do you approach hiring, and how do you approach retention?
Well, two points to that. How do we approach hiring? I've always thought you can give passionate people the skills, very hard to give skilled people the passion. So basically, hiring for attitude, hiring for character over competency. Now, it might sound cliche. It absolutely is true. Yes, in my world, if we're looking for an audio producer, you have to know how to use Pro Tools or Adobe Audition or a digital audio, tools and production equipment. You have to know how to do it, right? So that's a no-brainer. But we're not looking for the flashiest producer or the world's best producer. It's about attitude and character. What do you like as a person? How do you treat others? Are you going to stick around? Do you serve others and want to, are you happy to help other people, or are you kind of wanting to big note yourself? We've had a few come and go, and the ones that have come and gone, probably good that they've gone because they haven't been quite the right fit for whatever reason. But the ones that have stayed around are just really talented producers, really talented client service people, really the best, best of breed. But they also are great people. They've got great character. So for me, character is so important.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've been trying to think in the background where I heard this, and it's got to be. I'm going to probably misattribute this quote, but it could have been from Mike Michalowicz. It could have been from someone else. But a book I was reading recently said that the thought or the question that he was addressing is, are ideas more important or are people more important? And obviously that's a great conversation to have. But when he boiled it down, it was so simple. Ideas come from people, so people are more important.
Yeah.
And so ideas are a dime a dozen, right? You have a good idea. A good person is going to have, I know from myself, you'll know as an entrepreneur, you get ideas like 20,000 1,000 a day. You've always got ideas coming. I think it was Richard Branson that said ideas are like buses. They come every day, and multiple times a day, but you don't want to get on all of them because you won't know where you're going. So what I hear and see from what you're doing in your hiring process and your retention process, I bet there's some things that you do. One of them we've heard so far is flexible working arrangements, working from home, that you do that look after your people. You set them up to be the best they can be. What are some other ways that you enable your staff to be relentless? Like that one point you made about the client services team being obsessive about speed. That's a team that cares about their impact on their clients. It's a team that cares about their work. They're not just warming a seat and just doing what they're told. They're owning that role. So give me a little bit of an insight into how you it's team culture, right? How do you set up the team culture?
That's a big question, and I actually don't really I don't actually really know probably exactly. I can give you some thoughts maybe around some of the things that I do, that we do, that may have contributed. But again, I'm not an expert, and I think, I just don't actually know. But here are a few of the things. I think one of them is authenticity. I admit I'm real, and I admit that I actually don't know all the answers. I don't actually know. And I've surrounded myself, and I say me, but me and then we, with people better than me. So I don't know all the answers, and I'm looking for people better than me, and my executive leadership team and then the people on our client service and production teams are actually better producers, better client servers, better coders than I am. And I'm great with that because it means that I've got this amazing asset and all these amazing talented minds. So I guess authenticity and admitting I don't know all the answers. Probably actually genuinely caring about people is really important, and seeing people as people. Like what we'll do is things like we've got Friday, where how do we remote culture can be hard, but every second Friday we'll get menu log to deliver a coffee to one of our team. Or if I know, someone's had a bit of a tough day, I read the Zeitgeist, menu log dinner that night. Hey, you're home for dinner? There's some Indian curry on the way, and just random things like that. But I don't think it's just that. I think also having a why that people buy into. It's not just about money. Yes, we want to make a profit, but it's not just about that. It's about people. We want people to enjoy what they do. We want to make a difference in the world with some of the things that we do as well. And we want to. Another thing for me is trust and empowerment. I trust my team. They don't earn it. It's given. Trust can be broken, I think, but shouldn't be earned. You should give it. And when you give that, it's amazing to see how people just totally thrive and do really, are so invested. And I think that's a big part of it, just trusting the team, empowering them to make decisions. Hey, run anything by me if you're unsure. Happy to say put my 2 cents. I rarely make captain's calls. And maybe I'll only do it if they say, hey, we want you to make the call on this. I generally say, what do you guys think? What do you reckon? Or maybe, I think this, what do you think? Or they'll say, I think this. And if I don't agree, I'll say, I'm not sure. They'll push back and they know totally safe. And often they'll push back and I'll change my mind, or they're right and I'm not, or vice versa. They'll go, yeah, you're right on that one. So I think it's that respect and that knowing that I don't know all the answers, and I'm, trusting them to do a better job than I might.
Yeah, there's some gold in there. I think one of the things that you mentioned is a really, actually one point on the trust thing. I got the picture of it's like a vacuum, like a almost, you use the expression in a leadership vacuum or a power vacuum. Someone sucked into a role that wouldn't have necessarily gone there if the opportunity wasn't given them. In this trust scenario, if you give someone a bucket of trust, it almost sucks them up into performing and giving them the space to be able to be their best, to take that autonomy or that trust, and they're either going to run with it or they're going to shy away from it or whatever. But I love that point that you mentioned, and also giving them a why. It's not just about making money, and you mentioned it before. I think the vision casting and the setting the direction is probably pretty crucial to what you've been able to achieve, and gathering a team that is on a specific mission, because then they know what their role in the machine is, but they know why it matters. And you mentioned it earlier that it's the people. It's about people. Is that your why?
Yep. So people are our why is the statement that we make. And it doesn't really make actual sense. And people have said, well, hang on, isn't the why more about helping clients with amazing audio solutions that make their life easier? Yeah, but that's a few levels up. And to be honest, it doesn't actually sound that engaging. So I could be very wrong in that the why gurus of the world, and Simon Sinek's rolling his eyes at me right now if he could hear this. But for me, it really is. What's the absolute? It's about people and staff happy. You got happy staff that are feeling fulfilled. Life is short, right? And people spend so much of their time at work. What's the culture like? Do they have friends at work? Are they a tight unit that has fun in amongst the difficult, in the difficult jobs? Because there are some doozies. But then once they're happy, they are then doing their best for clients. And I was in our Launceston office yesterday, where a lot of our customer service, client service team are based, and just hearing them solve problems, deal with client issues, sort things out. Super proud. I don't wade into it at all. I'm just listening and really proud how they're thinking, how they're solving that, where they might push back, where they have a little internal, vent to each other, which we all need, but then how they deliver for the client. When you've got happy staff, you then have happy clients. And like you were saying, your experience was fantastic. Well, that's great, but that's as a result of happy, engaged staff that know which way we're pulling and what we're all about.
Yeah, that's great as a foundation for clients for your team to respond and react and manage their client relationships and productions. But I wonder, how much time do you spend, or do you put any language behind where you're driving the company as a whole? So strategic direction kind of stuff, where you want to grow to. What's the is there anything like that that you communicate?
So yes, we do have an overarching vision that we talk about, and that is Abe's Audio is a leading audio production house renowned for three things: exceptional service, creative excellence, outstanding talent. So we often talk about those three things. How exceptional is our service? How excellent is our creative problem solving, creative production? We want to be known for that. And also outstanding talent. And not just outstanding voiceover talent, but production talent, the people talent. How outstanding are we? They're the three things that we want to be known for and that we want to be renowned for. So we kind of really keep pushing that in terms of we're renowned for, we want to be renowned for this. These are the three things that matter. But that's fine to have a vision. But then for me, how do we set that culture? And we've kind of got three values. And I keep saying to the team, we don't just want to have values that go on a wall and are forgotten about, that can often easily happen. These are what we talk about in onboarding. We talk about these in team meetings, we different ways throughout the year. And they are simply this: we build relationships, chase creativity, and live generously. And so have some questions around those. So build relationships. How am I genuine and authentic? How do I, respect others? How do I bring positivity and joy to those I work with? That's whole building relationships internally and with clients as well. It's nothing if not relationships. I mean, in our business, it's easy to mouse click and go to any one of our competitors. And I like to think that, well, we're the best. But at the end of the day, if someone's after something $5 cheaper or whatever, they've done a Google search, our competitor's only a mouse click away. And so, we make if we make mistakes, when we make mistakes, strength of a relationship can cover a multitude of sins as well. So super important to have
so good.
strong relationships. Chasing creativity. This is not just for a production team, but our customer service team. How do we look for an original idea? How do we think, I used to say outside the box, but it's really inside the box. We've always got parameters, price, budget, time, deadline's a massive one for us. How do we work inside the box to find solutions that, we can do that by doing it this way, and we can shuffle, thinking creatively to find solutions. And then growing professionally and personally. How are we growing? How are we learning more? How are we becoming better at what we do? But even personally, how are we better in our jobs, better people? So that's the second value, chase creativity. And the third, live generously. And this is about being generous with others, like our time and resources, helping others, being a team player who always brings our best. And I like this one. How do I live in a way today that will help me thrive tomorrow? So balance is super important. But again, we're not looking for people just to take their pedal off and idle through. That's not going to work for a business. But we're about the long term. Sometimes you take a short-term hit if you have a long-term win. So it's, how do we live generously with others? How are we generous with serving others, with helping others, with thinking about others, and then also making sure that we're around for the long haul? So there are our three kind of values: build relationships, chase creativity, live generously.
I love that. And you mentioned it earlier that many values, get painted on the wall. They're produced, developed in the boardroom, and they've got vague and meaningless language that doesn't have real emotion to it, and it's on the wall, and everyone forgets about it, and no one knows what they are. How did you go about developing those as values? And two, how do you communicate them in a way that doesn't end up with them on a wall, forgotten about? How often do you communicate, and how do you make sure that they're actually values that the team is able to embody?
Oh, big questions. I don't know the answers to all of them either, to be honest. I don't know. A couple of things. I went through quite a tough season in business where I did a lot of soul searching and thinking and writing and spending time thinking, okay, how do I want this business to look? So really it was just a lot of thought. I love leadership podcasts, reading leadership books. I'm a student of leadership material, any sort of voice from any sector. I love that. And that really, I guess, putting all that together and mashing those thoughts. So creating the vision and values was something that I absolutely drove and then ran by our executive team. And I think the way is to not drop them on everyone saying, guys, these are our values. Catch you later. But it's, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what it means, getting buy-in. Yeah. So getting buy-in, but also driving the way. I think these are some of the captain's call, air quotes, that can be made by a leader. You need to make these big, strategic points that set the direction for a business, and then let your team come around that and make decisions. And then so now they know relationships are important. So when we need to make a good for a client, it's going to cost us, they know it's going to cost Abe's, but that's okay because it's all about building relationships with a client. We'll take a short-term hit, long-term, the win is much more important. It's not about every dollar. So they can make decisions based around these values. And how do we embed them? We talk about them a lot. I personally try to live them out. I actually think that's the best way to do it, to live out these values just in how you live, in who you are, that authenticity. You can say all these words in the world, put them up on the wall, doesn't mean anything if you're not living them out.
I love that because I hear that in your Friday little habits and the way you look after your team. What I'm hearing is that the way that you treat your team is the way that they will most likely treat the clients, and that's how kind of what the cup that they will give out from. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, exactly. And treating people like how I want to be treated. So how would I like to be treated? That's how I treat others. And it seems to go around nicely.
Yeah, I love that. And briefly, I always love asking founders this question because it's a really common challenge in a founder's journey. You started as the guy on the tools, right? Mm-hmm. The voice, the you said the everything. Yeah, you wore every hat. When was the transition point, and how did you make that transition between dude on the tools to leader growing a company?
It's been a gradual process, and it still is happening. But for me, it's realizing that I don't have all the answers, and there are people around me better than me at doing these things. So I think it's really, and again, I'm not saying I'm sorted and I'm it, I've got it all, but it's really probably self-awareness to know, actually, I don't want this business. Now I'm 46, so I still feel young in my mind, but in some ways, but I'm getting older. Yeah. I don't want this to be run by a middle-aged white male that my thinking is it, I know it all. Got some fantastic young women on our team, some fantastic older women on our team, some fantastic younger guys that are, 15 years, 10 years behind me. They've got brilliant ideas and a different perspective on things. And so for me, I want their perspective. I want their thoughts. They've got the cultural zeitgeist much better than I do, because I'm aging out of, that's, and not that, again, all our clients are, in their early 30s, but lots are, right? So I don't want to age out and become irrelevant. So for me, it's self-awareness that actually I don't know it all, and I want to be someone that helps to set vision and direction, but I want to then empower and trust a leadership team. And when you do that, it's amazing to see the cream that rises to the top. And it's better. You don't have to do everything yourself. Honestly, it's, I don't have to stress about things. I've got a team that have my back. We'll work through tough problems together. Ask me a question about AI if you really like to segue there. That's not just me that's made a captain's call. Although I've helped to drive a lot of that. We've brought a lot of thinking, a lot of time, a lot of, soul searching, a lot of questions and asking, how do we adopt? What do we do in this? Do we do? What do we adopt? How does this look? It's not just me, it's a team effort.
I love that, and it is a perfect segue, because I think now we have a good understanding of what Abe's Audio is and what makes it great, and all of those really interesting business leadership kind of foundations. Now we know what the ship looks like. Put the iceberg of AI in the way, and how have you responded to that? Like, just an anecdote from my own experience with AI voice. We had, for anyone who doesn't know the challenge that this is, and you can put more meat on this, but I had a project I did a test voiceover for a client, and I missed out a word, and my employee, my post-production whiz, Bailey, did an AI print of my voice and switched it out without me knowing what it was. And so that's a massive industry risk, right? For audio production. So how have you navigated that?
And look, this is very, very fresh for us. And it's a risk. But 6 months ago, my view was, AI is cool tech. I'm kind of nerding out. It's very cool, but it will never be as good as we need. And we're going to lean into our human, our people. There's one thing I've learned, is to never say never about AI and make big, broad statements. And that's super dangerous when things are moving so quickly. And so 5 months ago, we're working on a big project for a client using AI. We'd modeled a voice, and it's like a, digital that creates these, bespoke, hyper-targeted content for individuals. And I heard the voice and I was like, oh my goodness, it was a mic drop moment. I thought, this technology has gotten crazy good in 5 months. So it was, okay, what do we have to do? And I had lots of anxious nights. I thought, we're in trouble. My business development manager, who funnily enough worked for me for years out of high school as a producer for years, became my 2IC, left, became a practicing certified accountant, came back years later and works for us, does all our numbers, but he understands production, so he understands the business really well. He said to me, that's cool, very sobering. He said, your business isn't going to exist the way it does in 2 years. Maximize your personal profits now. And he did that with my interests at heart. And I thought, well, that's great, but what do I do in 2 years? I've built this. This is what I know, what I love, what provides my family and 26 other people and their families. And so it was a real come to Jesus moment in that I was really anxious, thought, what does this mean? Lots of sleepless nights. But then thought, if I was starting the business today, what would I do? And I had no legacy relationships, nothing to worry about. I would absolutely lean into this new technology. So that's what I have to do. So then we did, this is condensing a lot of conversations, not just with me, but with our team, with external people, consultants, people I trust. And so what we've launched is ethical AI voiceovers, which is the first in Australia. And what it is, essentially is taking our voice talent, some of our most popular talent, asking them, are you willing to be, happy is the wrong word, but are you willing to be involved? So fully opt in. Some have said no, not yet, but there's a lot of great talent have said yes, happy to be involved. So they're opted in. We've then created professional clones of their voices. We've got some enterprise agreements in that these clones then aren't used to train anything else. So it's fully locked down, fully private for us. Only we have access, not publicly available. So we've got access, which is quite big because we have people's voice clones. You can make them say anything. The technology is really clever. It's not brilliant for everything, but it's really good for some things. And so the power is in our hands. So we've said we'll look after your voice print. It's locked under lock and key. Just select people within our business. We will pay you for work that is generated using your voice model. The price point does lower because it lowers it for clients. So if you're looking for a lower cost option, and I can talk a little bit more about where it can work and can't, there's pros and cons. But we'll pay them for their work. We'll put some guidelines around what we won't touch. So we're not touching finance, religion, politics, adult content, or impersonating First Nations. So we just stay away from that unless there's some agreement in writing. For example, it might be a political party. But basically it's, you want to voice this, we'll talk to the real person and then they can say yay or nay. So we stay away from that and they can opt out at any time. We literally delete their model and we're the ones that lose because we're paying for all this. It's not cheap. The first year it's tens of thousands of dollars for us to set this up. But have a look and listen to the tech.
Ethical AI voiceovers are human-centered, AI-created voiceovers from Abe's Audio.
They help to reduce your voice costs while protecting talent,
ensuring we're paid for the use of our voice. Hi, I'm Abby.
I'm Abe.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Grayson.
I'm Jay.
I'm Carrie.
I'm James, one of the voice talents at Abe's Audio.
We haven't personally read this script. These voiceovers have been created from written text using professional clones of our voices. Don't worry, we know about this.
So why would you use AI?
Imagine creating quality guide reads for video content fast.
Or producing e-learning content at scale and reducing your costs.
Or providing 3 different voice talent options in a client pitch.
And then booking the real me for a session once your client confirms who they'd prefer.
That's the advantage of using ethical AI voiceovers from Abe's Audio. We're real people.
Our team makes it easy for you to leverage AI voiceover technology. Talk to us today to learn more.
That was wild.
It blew my mind. Even putting it together, it still does blow my mind. And
Wait,
again,
so none of those lines were AI. None of those lines were actually spoken by the real voice
none
actors.
of those lines were spoken or recorded by the human talent. That's their models, including me. I was in there. So you can see the power of it. Again, it's not for everything. So what's the use case? What's our why? The use case is, we think, pitch voiceovers for video. And let's say you've got You've got 3 voiceover options you present to a client. Here's your latest TV ad or online video. Here are 3 different voices.
Yep.
Which one do you like? By the way, they are real people. So once I like to get her, great. We will book the real human for a session, and she gets paid for that, and you can direct her and have as much creative input as you want. That's the point of difference. They're not just bots. They're not just models. They're real people. And
that's cool.
And so they're not, so you kind of got this connection that, this is not just a bot. That's their voice. I can book them. Maybe it's making a low budget commercial. Maybe it's doing lots of online e-learning or training contents. That's really what it's ideal for. Because there is some creative limitations, absolutely. It's not ideal for everything. There's very limited creative direction, and tricky pronunciations are not great either. Much better to book the human talent because, again, we can do it really efficiently. But we've lent into this technology literally 2 weeks ago, launched it, and it's brand new. But to see the industry feedback, there have been very little blowback. When we've talked about the ethics of it and how we've tried to really kind of tick everything off and look after people, again, people are our why. Clients, you want to give them a product that works for them at a lower price point, but look after talent. Our clients are saying, "Oh, that makes sense. That's clever. That's good," and it kind of demystifies and tries to take some of the fear out of AI. So hopefully, again, it remains to be seen. And I keep telling all our talent, I actually do not know all the answers. I don't know where this is going to end up. It's moving that quickly, but I know one thing. We'll become like Blockbuster or Kodak, slightly smaller scale, but we'll become very irrelevant if we don't lean into this tech. And so we've done that. Yeah. There'll be others that don't, that can't for whatever reason. I think we've led the charge in Australia, and just to see the industry uptake and the feedback has been really interesting. But doesn't it? I mean, it still just blows my mind how far we've come. I feel like we're living in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, no, literally, because we had a rebrand for we had a bunch of app how-to videos, and the company was purchased by another company, so we had to rebrand everything. They came back to us and they'd spent tens of thousands of dollars on this product, but they had to change the brand of everything, which included text voiceovers. So they paid us $7,000 to re-record lines, to reshoot content, to do post-production work, to change logos in footage. And that was only 18 months ago. If it would have been now, we wouldn't have had to re-record any of those lines. It was literally the business name. Yeah. That kind of thing, so long as it's not some crazy to pronounce name, as you were mentioning, they're not quite there yet. But we could voice print the talent that from the company that was voicing them, and then just change the business name. So it's the acceleration of this technology has been wild, and I think it is a little bit of the Wild West out there, and there's kind of boundaries, just chasing, trying to be put in place, and it's a dangerous point. It's a dangerous place for, as you acknowledged, a dangerous place for talent, for voice talent or actors. Yep. In that, it is a very powerful thing, and it can be misused really easily.
And one thing that we've really been doing, I personally, I think, have been really withdrawing from the trust bank. So for 25 years, I've built trust with our voiceover talent. We've paid them quickly, things like our system sends them a list of jobs the day after, like the first day of the new month. They'll send their invoice. They'll be paid within a day. So they're getting money long before we've even probably sent our invoices out and all see the cash. So they're paid fast. Wow. They're respected. And I've always said that we can't always pay a lot, but we can pay quick. And that is really appreciated. And things like that build the trust bank. So I'm withdrawing from that trust bank with our talent and saying, hey, I don't know all the answers, but we will do everything we can to protect you in this air quote Wild West space. Trust me. And they've all said, hey, don't worry, I fully trust you. I wouldn't be doing this with anyone else. Some talent have said, no one else in the industry would I trust to do this, but I trust you. And I feel very humbled by that.
Wow.
And I've said to our team, we will do everything we can to not betray that trust. And we'll continue to do our best to build it and find new work, so that we might be taking a hit cost or, cost-wise on some things. This is to find new work for clients that didn't think this was possible, and we're helping to bring their costs down. And so really looking, how do we actually make it work for us and for our voice talent? So it's really building on that trust bank that we've been years kind of depositing into.
Yeah. That's so good, and it speaks really well to the way you've operated in business. Is you weren't building that trust bank with the purpose of being able to withdraw from it, right?
No.
Being able to weather a storm. It's from the treat people like you'd like to be treated.
Yeah.
It's from the values that you shared before. That is so cool. Hey, I want to round this episode off with any other challenges or lessons that you've learnt in your journey so far building Abe's Audio. What have been some maybe some tough lessons or some situations you didn't see coming, or something you had to a new thing you had to encounter? I'm putting you on the spot here. That you responded to and overcame, and I'm really interested because business journey is full of them, right?
Yeah.
I often say that people view mistakes like they're a bad thing, or failure like it's a bad thing. I can guarantee you no CEO or founder I've had on this podcast hasn't had any failures, hasn't had any mistakes, and all the good ones, they've learned some really good things from them, and it's helped build their business, their leadership capacity. Is there anything that you're comes to mind? Any lessons?
Anything that I can talk about.
Yeah, that's right. That's the other question.
Lots of things you can't actually talk about, which we will not talk about.
Yeah.
Let's face it, safe to say, it hasn't always been easy. In fact, it's been very tough. Some of the journey has been tough. Some of the lessons I've learned, putting people first and treating people like you want to be treated, it's really important. I've seen it go the other way as well. That's, I guess, has really stilled my resolve to know, hang on, this is how I would like to be treated, so how I'll treat other people. I think it's being able to be nimble and react to change with, first of all, those 15, 20 years ago, working remotely. That wasn't planned, but, had to pivot. The AI move certainly wasn't planned, had to pivot. I think it's being able and nimble enough to adapt to change, but not to jump on every bus, every idea as it comes by. It's kind of, the challenge is knowing which bus to jump on. That's definitely a challenge. Technology has made it easy for us to do what we do, but also made it easy for competitors to do what we do. Has opened a whole raft of competitors, similar models and completely different models, online only models, platform only. So really kind of doubling down and sticking to our knitting and knowing really who our target market is and why we're the best, why we think we're the best, and really doubling down on that and not getting distracted. That's been a challenge. It's always a challenge with people. As great as our people are, everyone's got their challenges and different things they want out of life. So it's how do we keep them engaged? Working remotely and actually building culture remotely is a massive challenge, and I do not have the answers. I'm still wondering how we do that. There's, how do you communicate in a noise of Slacks, but keep, Slack messages, but keep people engaged while not having too much? How do you have enough meetings, but still allow them to do work and have good deep thinking? Because there's no water cooler chat. That's a real challenge. I mean, once a year we fly all of our team into Tassie and have a big, Christmas party with everyone there. It's never cheap to do, but it's absolutely worthwhile. But it's a challenge to do it remotely. That's an ongoing challenge. Probably no real big ones that I can speak of, but I think it's just the ongoing day-to-day, being able to be nimble, but really thinking about our why. It all comes back to people, keeping happy, engaged staff. Yes, they need to be performing and delivering, but keep them engaged and happy and feel like they've got, people got their backs. They then do their best for clients, and then they, happy clients mean a great business that grows.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And that's a great way to land the plane, I think, Abe. Mate, I've really loved hearing the behind the scenes of Abe's Audio, your journey, your philosophies. I am a big Abe's Audio fan, and now I'm just a bigger one. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you navigate the next seasons of life and business.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thanks so much for watching this episode. If you really enjoyed it, I'd love to hear about what your thoughts are on any of the topics that we discussed. And don't forget, there's a video here and here if you want to check out some of our past episodes. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you in the next one.